Hey everyone, Gihan here. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a couple of years since I first shared how I use Stream Deck at work as a GP, and the feedback from both fellow doctors and patients have been quite fantastic actually. Since then, the Stream Deck has evolved, and so have the way I use it at work. So I thought I'll just share a quick video today to see how things have changed over the last couple of years. Now, this is more of an updated overview of how you can streamline workflow in general practice, whether you're a GP like me or from a different healthcare setting. You can certainly use a Stream Deck to save time and make your day a bit more smoother. Some features are quite helpful for both doctors and also administrative staff, reception, and even nursing staff as well. I won't be diving too much into detail today, particularly from a technical point of view as to how Stream Decks are used. Instead, I'll show you more of an overview of some practical examples of how I integrate Stream Decks into general practice. And trust me, it's been a lot easier than what it used to be, particularly when developing new macros and so on. And also, I believe there's now a Stream Deck community where you can share macros, and I am hoping to post my macro set up on Stream Deck community. So stay tuned, I'll put the link as soon as I do so. Alright, now before I go into specifics, let's do a quick recap of where we were. Let me share the link to the previous video from 2022 down below. Feel free to have a quick look at the features we used back then, especially around COVID vaccinations. The COVID vaccine macros ran about 40-50 steps in one button, which is quite helpful and saved a lot of time around mass vaccination clinics we ran those days. We used to have left arm, right arm, dose 1, 2, 3, 4. So if someone's coming in for their third COVID vaccine dose, which have separate item number, different batch numbers, expiry dates on their left arm, you just press that button and it does all that work for you. It saved a whole heap of time, which is quite helpful. Over the past 2 years, there have been some fantastic updates. The software is now even more user-friendly. You can copy your own profile into your device, which can be saved within the device, especially useful if you work across multiple different clinics. You can also run multi-device macros using a Corsair keyboard or a mouse. Also activate, deactivate microphones, especially if you're using a Corsair or an Elgato microphone. Particularly helpful if you use an AI scribe tool like Heidi during consultations. Speaking of Heidi, they will also soon be running keyboard shortcuts as part of their roadmap as well, which will be very helpful in transcribing patient consults, because you will be able to then directly integrate that into a Stream Deck as well. All right, let's dive straight into a live demo. So the first very useful button is the Start button or Open button, which opens Slack, opens Chrome, and then opens Best Practice on the remote desktop environment. All right, I'm at the Clyde Clinic now, where we have 2 monitors set up, and also we have remote desktop app running Best Practice and Doctor's Control Panel and so on. Here I have a slightly different setup with the Startup button running a few extra macros, including Chrome running and opening a few websites at the same time. And also Best Practice is run through a remote desktop app. So it's still one button running at the moment. It's also opening up my email, and over here it's opening up Doctor's Control Panel as well. So all of those functions are run with one button. It's quite handy. This is the first button I press when I come to work in the morning. There's a few buttons here that are quite helpful when doing billings, particularly in general practice, having so many different Medicare item numbers that some can be co-billed and can't be co-billed. It's really hard to keep on top of these item numbers, so it makes it easier to just put it onto a Stream Deck. Here we have item 3, telehealth, 2336 level E, STI, reproductive health, bloodborne viruses, item number for telehealth if it's under 5 minutes, more than 5 minutes. There's a face-to-face item number for level E consult here. And those are commonly used, so I've got it up front here. Plus, if you go to the MBS section, there's a few more commonly used Medicare item numbers here. I'll just bring it a little bit closer. Here we go. for ECGs, pregnancy testing, antenatal face-to-face, antenatal telehealth, hormonal implant, care plans done by video for GPMP, team care arrangements, and also reviews, rib fracture item numbers, nasal fracture, foreign body removal from ear, diagnostic spirometry and monitoring spirometry. COVID vaccine item number is another common one. And also when it comes to mental health, there's a few mental health care plan item numbers for both telehealth and face-to-face, and also non-directive perinatal counseling item number here. There's a few other commonly used macros, particularly when sharing patient information. I have one here for Royal Children's Hospital fact sheet, and also a few Royal Children's Hospital podcasts, a few other fact sheets, particularly when it comes to upper respiratory tract infections. These fact sheets are quite helpful to sort of essentially use best practice to send a text message to the patient with the appropriate links, and also just add those links into your medical note as well. There's another whole section around results. This was discussed in detail in my previous Stream Deck video, so I'm not going to go again into it, but essentially very helpful. If you have 100 results sitting in your inbox, you can press these buttons to go normal, no action required, or normal, or abnormal, or any other further action that's required. For instance, if they're under specialist care, or if you need to set a recall for an abnormal result, and it does that all automatically using multiple different macros. I have a few other buttons here for AI prompts, particularly when you're using ChatGPT for template generation, or Heidi for template generation, essentially running AI prompts, which are quite helpful. There's a whole section around aged care. Again, all comes back down to item numbers and billing, and also for note taking. For instance, when I present to the aged care, I usually introduce myself, so there's a note about who I am and what I'm doing. Different item numbers, both for after hours and during hours, with flag fall and triple bulk billing incentives and so on. Automating e-faxes, having my signature on. Some doctors like to have a image of their actual signature. I just type signed electronically. According to Medicare, that's all you need to do, and that's quite helpful when you're writing a e-referral or even radiology or pathology. This is my APRA number saved here, and practice email address and so on for other administrative purposes. I also have my safe script pin saved there, so don't have to keep typing it all the time. One of my colleagues, Dr. Brett Ogilvie, has done a lot of work around antenatal care, which I don't routinely do, but there's a lot of stuff happening here that's quite helpful, particularly if they're coming in for their first antenatal visit. This will allow you to print handouts and do a few steps in one button. I'll just go back to the actual macro. There's 27 actions in there, which is quite remarkable. And COVID and flu vaccines, COVID vaccines aren't happening in that mass vaccination pattern anymore, but during the mass vaccine clinics, this is what we used to use, as I discussed before. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail there. C-flu is when patients coming in for COVID and flu vaccine sort of combined clinics, which is quite helpful because you could run a flu vaccine clinic and also discuss with the patient about COVID vaccine eligibility as well. Most people aren't aware of their COVID vaccine eligibility, and once it's discussed, most people end up having the vaccine, and you could bill an additional item number for providing both flu vaccine and COVID vaccine or any other vaccine, along with the COVID vaccine eligibility assessment at the same time, which is quite handy to have. There's also a whole section about stuff that we do in treatment rooms. Again, I'm not going to go too much into detail there. This section also was done by my colleague, Dr. Ogilvie, but yeah, that's quite helpful, particularly when you're running or administering vaccines or doing an ankle breaker index and so on in the treatment room. Lastly, there's a small section around Doctor's Control Panel and how you could integrate Doctor's Control Panel into a Stream Deck as well, which is quite helpful also. Now, this is a bit of a bonus section for staying along with me for this long. It's about Microsoft PowerToys, and if you haven't used PowerToys, I highly recommend that. If you're a PC user, you can get it from Microsoft Store, and it's free. There's a couple of very helpful modules I pretty much use daily. Most importantly, the text extractor is a very helpful one. All you need to do is to either press Windows Shift and T button, or from a Stream Deck point of view, you can just create your own extract button there. Now, essentially, you can copy anything on a screen by using the extract module. For instance, if you receive a fax from a specialist, or if you just want to copy that section from the fax, you press the extract button and you just highlight the area you want to copy, and this applies to anything that pops up on your screen as long as it's text. Now it's copied to the desktop and just can simply paste it. Very helpful if you want to quickly copy stuff across from Heidi, for instance. Now, if I have a consult here, and if I just want to copy things about advanced care planning, you can just press the extract button and just select that section. Now that's copied to the desktop now. Very helpful when you're taking things copied across from other guidelines and PDF files or anything that's sort of locked as well, because you're essentially copying anything off the screen. So Microsoft PowerToys, highly recommended. Now, speaking of remote desktop, this is a question that comes up very frequently. Lots of people are now running their practice management software through a remote desktop server. So the key take-home message is to run your practice management software and other software like Doctor's Control Panel through the remote desktop app, not using the remote desktop connection. So for instance, here we are running best practice through remote app, and it runs on a terminal server, but it looks like it's actually running on-prem. So makes it a lot more seamless and very easy to use, especially if you're using a Stream Deck. Because see, if you see here, it looks like it's actually running on this PC, but it's actually not. So if I press Alt Control and N buttons, you can see that's the remote desktop app running that software on a separate server. Now that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening in. Hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you picked up a few ideas. And that's the whole point. If you have other ideas as to how you're using a Stream Deck at your clinic, please let me know in the comments down below. Especially if you're using a Stream Deck with your other colleagues as well, particularly with the nursing staff and the administrative staff. Because I think there's a lot of potential when it comes to improving workflow, particularly at the reception as well. And yeah, feel free to share this video and also join Tech for Docs if you're not already a member. Thanks for listening. Bye. Now, just before I go, one more question that's commonly asked is whether you can run multiple Stream Decks at the same time, and clearly the answer is yes. Very easy to set up. And one last question is, what happens if you press the Do Not Press button? Well, we'll find out.
Can I try by myself? Can I just practice? Okay, let's press it. Oh my.
What happened?
It exploded!
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't do anything.
Doesn't it?
No.